This is a 2005 Infiniti G35, and well, in its heyday, this was probably the best competitor for the BMW 3 Series. And today, I get a chance to take a look at it, take it for a drive, and tell you my opinion of it. All right, welcome back to All Cars. I'm John, and every time I look at a car and have a chance to review it, I ask myself two questions. The first is, would I recommend it to other people? Number two, would I be proud to have one in my driveway? Would I be proud to arrive in one? So I'm going to take a look at the outside, the inside, and take this thing for a drive today, give you my opinion of it. At the end, I'm going to answer those two questions. Let's start with the outside, and this was a surprise, honestly. The BMW was the chief of the hill, the king of the hill, and Infiniti had the two G20 models before this. Both were basically rectangular, boring boxes, and then they came out with this bad boy. And this thing is based on the FM architecture, which underpins the Z cars, and that FM stands for front midship, so it's front engine, rear wheel drive, but the engine is shifted ever so slightly to the rear to improve weight distribution. And it's got that magnificent Infiniti V6 under here that when it was brand new made about 260 horses. This is a fantastic car, a great driving car that honestly is not perfect and missed being a real classic in a few different ways. So let's start up here at the front a little bit. And you know, the big distraction for me is, first off, this car has some mileage on it. This has not been treated well. It has been a little problematic for the owner, and it's ugly. Okay, it's got some age. It's got a patina. It's got a patina on it. But beyond that, as you'll hear during the drive, that there's the essence of this car is still there. I like the grille on it. It's not fantastic, but you can start to see the move towards the future of what became the Infiniti grills when they started to really cut down below the bumper line, and I like their front ends now. They are not as out there as, say, Lexus is, and I feel like this is kind of the start of it. But the problem really here is for the lights. They resemble, for all the world, to me, the 911's runny egg headlights. These are just fabulous. They look like flies' eyes to me, and overall you end up with something that looks very Japanese, but doesn't quite ever have that element of classicness that you get with, say, a BMW or a Jaguar or a Mercedes, or even, for that matter, a Cadillac. That element of style, you just end up with this, and I don't know, it just never really works for me. The rest of it down the side, I like it. It looks lower than I think it really is. There's not much here. There's no real strong character lines. There's no interesting body work to do anything. It's just a car, but unfortunately, the way they did it, they look like they designed their car and then puffed it up about 5%. But you end up back here with a really nice haunch, if I do say so myself. And it's okay. It's a strong end. I like that it's chopped off here. It's got an interesting shape to it. The tail lights right here have got an interesting light pattern. I don't like that this bled over. I like the triangular headlights that were really popular at the time. They put this in here. At least they tried to do something a little bit different. But overall, you end up with, like I said, something that's not unattractive. It's not ugly. It's not hideous. It just never rises to that classic level where you look at it and think, oh, that was a 2005 Infiniti. Trunk's a pretty good size as well. We're going to go into the interior now, but I'm not going to open this because it is packed full of things like shoes and a muffler. So let's take a look in the back seat. Now, again, being based on what is basically the G platform, it's not huge. That front seat is set basically where I would sit. I'm about 5'9". So once you squeeze yourself back here, it's not terrible. I've got just about enough space to put my fist right there. I've got that much space above my head. That's pretty tight. Got a little mat pocket back here, power windows, optional detachable cover on the doors. It's got an armrest and fancy cup holders. And an ashtray. You just don't see that anymore. But for 2005, it's okay. No vents back here. It's just okay, but it's more spacious than you would think. Being based on that FM platform, it works. It feels a little tight, but not unusually so. The front seat is what surprised me a little bit. This car has lived a life. It really has. And, well, some parts don't work. Many of them. It's a little tight to get in. The seat feels a little high. This area feels a little narrow. But once you get in, just a ton of room. And it feels like it's based on a sports car. Well, it feels like a Z car up here. I kind of like the dashboard. The little bin right here, it's not ridiculous. It's not huge and swooping. It's okay. But once you're behind the seat, it's really pretty comfortable. All right, so inside, it's, well, small. I do like Japanese standard. Got, move this out of the way here. Windshield wiper, windows lock, up and down, auto on both sides, which is pretty nice. Little vents. Hate the color of the gauges, but like I said, 148, 1,000 miles on it. Basic controls here. Keep in mind the year we're working with, but it's actually pretty comfortable. Once you get yourself folded in here, you've got a lot of leg room to stretch out and a nice kind of flat area. It's not really a dead pedal down there. Of course, you can see it does not have a handbrake. It has a foot brake. Not ideal. Down here, dimmer, and basically a traction control right there. Across the center, a little bit of a display, again, more amber gauges, but outside temperature, inside set temperature, and what direction you happen to be going in case you're clueless. Behind this, a clock. A little bit of storage right here. Ashtray for the good old days. A couple of hidden cup holders. You'd never know they were there. More storage. And then an upper glove compartment and a lower. So pretty comfortable. Seats are okay. Controls are right here between the seats, front, back, up, down. Everything else, same thing on the other side. Power seats, and of course, heated seats. Automatic transmission. Got this big chunky button, right here on the side. Overall, it's okay. I mean, it's like the Japanese tried to do BMW and they just ended up with an expanse of plastic, but also it's not, I keep saying classic, it's not got those little touches that make it feel special. I mean, no matter what you do, soft touch plastic, hard and thin right there, it's nice plastic, but it's still just plastic. There's no wood, there's no anything to really set this thing apart and make it feel special. All right, getting the Infiniti on the road, and the fact of the matter is it's a little noisy here. But once you get behind the wheel, once you get settled, and once you press the loud pedal over here, all those other little concerns kind of fade away. You don't really care about the exterior styling anymore because you can't see it. You don't really care about the interior not being as nice as a Mercedes C-Class or a Jaguar. The fact is, it just drives fantastic. I guess what I'm trying to get to is once you get moving, that amazing Nissan V6, punchy transmission, It's still, in spite of all these miles, it still shifts really crisply. The engine's got great torque, a great feel. The suspension is relatively flat. It's sporty, but it's still being compliant over things. It's a little noisier than, say, my car, certainly the exhaust in here, but it's absolutely agreeable. And all those other things fade away, and you're left with that goodness that is what this generation of G absolutely was. So the thing is I have a story about this car, is because about this year, I was thinking of a new car, and I was thinking of stretching up to something nice. And I had driven 3 Series, and I love them. I think they're just those generations when BMW had really captured that lightning in a bottle. They were the best of the best. They absolutely were. And they were special. They felt special in every single way. A little boring interiors, a little drab, right? It's all black all the time. But they were special. And I'd driven that, and I'd gone to a Mercedes dealership, and I had driven a C-Class. And that blew me away from a luxury perspective and from just impressive inside and out. The Mercedes absolutely did it for me. I loved it. And on a whim, I went to the Infiniti dealer and I drove one of these. I don't remember exactly what year it was, but it was absolutely this generation. And I think it had an automatic too. And I was blown away with how much I liked it. How it was not as luxurious as the Mercedes inside, but it was absolutely...
It's fine. It does it often. It does it on and off. It's okay. It's not going to explode or anything like that. Don't worry.
It absolutely held its own with the 3 Series. And as a matter of fact, when this car was released, it was nominated as one of the cars of the year. And if I remember correctly, Car and Driver voted it to its 10 best list twice. And that's the thing, is that for being over that 15 years old, right? So it's not a classic, and I don't think this car ever will be. But over 15 years, that's when a car really, almost irregardless of the miles, it reaches that point where is what kind of problems are going to come up that are going to continue to eat at you. You know what I mean? It's not a classic, it's not worth the investment, but it's also old enough to be unreliable just because of the age of the individual pieces of it. And that's what the owner of this car has had a problem with, is that at 17 years old, let's say, it's just been a constant string of things needing to be replaced. The knock sensor needed to be replaced. That didn't fix anything. The windshield wipers didn't work. Well, that turned out to be the computer module, the ECM, I think it is, under the hood, which they've got it designed where water can drip down into it, but then the hole to drain the water out isn't big enough, so you have a fuse box with a computer module with water ponding in it. Yeah, things go wrong, and it's really expensive. You can't find them new. You have to buy used, hope it still works, and then it's a pain in the neck to replace it. And it's just been a string of things, in addition to the interior falling apart. It's just a constant little string of things. So I don't think this car will ever become a classic. It's got these problems. It gets horrific gas mileage. But when you're behind the wheel, when you're driving it, for 17 years old, the suspension feels great. It's got power. You know, originally this engine new had about 260 horsepower. I think many of those Japanese horses are lame right now, but it's still got fabulous torque, and it's just a driver's car. And this is what happens. The weaknesses and the strengths of this car are because it's based on that Nissan FM platform. It's based on a Z. The Z is not a four-door sports sedan that was cut down to two doors. It was grown up to make this car, and you can feel it. It's a wonderful car. It drives fantastic. If you could find one in pristine condition, it'd be wonderful to have. But that's what I love about the car, is that once you strip away all the rest of the stuff, it just feels good. All right, so the 2005 G35, what do I think about it? I want to love it. I really, really do. And like I said when I told you the story, I liked it more than the 3 Series when it was brand new. But I have to ask myself those two questions. Number one, would I recommend this to other people? And I want to say yes, with a giant asterisk beside it. Because of the age of these vehicles, and because they are intended to be sporty, you would have to buy one very, very carefully. So answer 1A is, would I recommend this particular vehicle to anyone? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I believe the phrase I just used is take it to a junkyard, get $500 and a can of Coke, and call it a day. But if you could find one, maybe with less miles, that was babied and garaged, then absolutely. If you're looking for a sports sedan of this vintage, absolutely. It's not the most stylish, it's not the most beautiful, it's not the roomiest, it's not the most luxurious. And no, I don't ever think it'll truly be a classic. It's not a Skyline, although that's what it was called in Japan. It is, however, in essence, an excellent, excellent car. And that brings me to question number 2 is, would I own one? Would I be proud to have one of these in my driveway? And I really struggle with this, but I gotta say the answer is no. And it's because of that classic factor. I don't love the front end. I don't love the rear end. I don't really love anything about it other than how it drives. And there's other cars that drive well too. The only saving grace I think this has is, for all of the complaints, for all of the little details we've talked about, it has Japanese reliability. But ultimately, no, I think I would rather take my chances with something that has a little more personality, a little more panache. But let me know what you think below. Thanks, guys.